So after training sales teams in over 50 countries, helping generate over 300,000 new customers, I can tell you with absolute certainty that the gap between a struggling sales rep or team and a world-class one, it never really comes down to talent. It really comes down to one thing, and that one thing is what we're going to talk about today. So today, I'm going to talk about what I learned training the world's top sales teams and why it matters for Tennessee entrepreneurs. Now, what's your guess? What do you think the one thing is? Specifically, what do you think it is? If you could pick one thing that you think separates a world-class sales rep from a struggling sales rep, one thing that takes a struggling sales team to world class. What do you think that is? The closest I would say is posture, because it's so related to what I see as the biggest gap, and that is the ability to close. Now, hear me out. Someone has resistance to closing, or they feel weird about closing, or they think it's about being pushy or aggressive, and they don't want to be that way. And by the way, closing does not have to do with being pushy or aggressive, because actually that gets you negative results, not positive ones. So the person who's great at closing is almost never pushy or aggressive, but they ask questions, they have posture, and they understand one thing that the struggling rep just seems to never understand. And that is the problem of your prospect that they're currently involved in, that they're currently experiencing, is more important than what your solution is. So the struggling salesperson is constantly focused on their solution, not the problem of the prospect. And the truth is, the prospect doesn't care about your solution until they can associate it with solving their problem. And I don't mean a generic problem. I don't mean hey, my solution helps people lose weight. Well, okay, lose weight may be their problem, but it may be something completely different. It may be that they feel ruined from losing a relationship, and they feel like losing weight would help them gain confidence. That's not just losing weight, it's also gaining confidence, which some of you mentioned. Now, hear me out. If it was as simple as asking more people, right? I've met people that have sent 20 to 30 messages a day, every day for a year, and not gotten a sale. And you don't have to admit that that's you, but I've met people like that. And the big difference is they just focus too much on their solution than the problem of the prospect. You got to focus on the problem, because here's the reality. I believe most of you, not all of you, but I believe most of you have a product or service that is awesome. You have a product or service that would just bring so much value to people if you knew how to close. I want to help those of you who really believe in their product or service. I want to help you close more sales, because I believe that's the best way that I can help impact the world, is helping you sell that product or service that you absolutely love, that would absolutely bring value to people and absolutely make a positive impact. What I've learned training the world's top sales teams all over the world, Australia, New Zealand, Sweden, all over the world, the biggest difference between struggling sales reps and struggling sales teams and world-class ones is their ability to close. What I've also noticed is those who say, I don't want to be pushy, I don't want to be aggressive, they don't study the game enough to have the skills to close without being pushy or aggressive. So they actually end up being pushy and aggressive. I want to give you something here, and this will serve you so much. It'll serve you in every sales conversation you ever have from now on. And that is, when you're talking to a prospect, anytime you feel anxiousness or you feel like you're losing the sale or anything like that, stop what you're doing and ask them a question about them and their situation and their problem. A really simple one could be, depending on how you acquired the lead, a real simple one could be, hey, I'm just curious, what initially made you interested in taking a look at this? Or what initially had you click the ad? What initially had you reach out to me, right? So if it's an inbound lead, that is a great question. What you should not do is say, well, it's a really great product, or it's a really great service. Like, do not focus on your solution, focus on their problem. Asking more questions will help you do that. And we talk all about that on my YouTube channel. I hope this was helpful to you, and we just appreciate you so very much. I will talk to you soon. God bless you, and bye for now.